All right, chemistry students, we are going to do a little video on your notes for making graphs in a chemistry class. So let's take a look at these. On when you're making a graph, your graph needs to have the following points. You need to have a title. So for this little graph here in the bottom right-hand corner, you have the title, the number of reproducing E. coli bacteria over 10 hours in agar at 25 degrees Celsius. So you need to have a label your horizontal axis and make sure you put your units. So your horizontal axis is the one on the bottom. Remember, horizontal, like the horizon, is flat. So this is this section down on the bottom. And you're going to need to pick a scale that works good for your graph paper. In this case, you have a scale for the number of hours that each line represents 1 hour. So you have 1 through 10 hours, and each one of the lines represents 1 hour. You need to label your vertical axis. So this is your vertical, up and down. You have vertical axis here, the number of E. coli bacteria, and your scale on your vertical axis goes from 0 to 100, and each line in this case represents 20 E. coli bacteria. And then you're going to plot your points. We don't have the actual data table representing the points here, but you can see that the points are plotted, and then there's a line that's connecting the points. This is your first line graph. A line graph is used when one variable, the independent variable, which is on the bottom of your line graph, the horizontal, affects another, which is the dependent variable, and the dependent variable goes on the vertical axis. It's useful for predicting trends, especially over time, and most chemistry graphs are line graphs. We use other graphs as well. We can use a pie chart, we can use a histogram, we can use different kinds of charts, but generally speaking, the line graph is the most common one that we'll be using. So let's plot this information here. This is a graph that is representing a plant's height. So we're going to use that as our title. We'll say plant height as our title. And then we have the weeks. Here we have 5 weeks. Let's just take a look here. We have 5 weeks. And then we have the height of the plant. Okay, so the number of weeks is going to impact the height of the plant. So we're going to put the weeks on the bottom. And we have 5 weeks and we have 5 lines, so that works out really well. That means each line will represent 1 week. And then for our height, we'll put height as our label. And our unit will be in centimeters. And when you're picking your scale for your axis, you need to look at your biggest number and your smallest number and subtract the two. 11 subtract 2 would give you 9. And then you need to count the number of lines that you have available to you. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And typically we would just divide the 2 to 12 divided by 9 will give us 1 point something. So basically it's pretty easy to see that each line, a good scale for this would be that each line would represent 1 centimeter. Now when you actually write your scale, you don't have to write 1 centimeter for each. You don't have to write each centimeter. You can skip the lines, okay, and just write every second one if you want. So it'd be each line would represent 1. So we'd have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. You know, if you can write really small, you can write each line if you want, but sometimes it gets a little bit messy because you're writing so many numbers in a small area. So the next thing would be to just plot your points. So on week 1, you're coming up straight up from here. Week 1, your height is 2 centimeters. Come straight over from here and plot that point. And week 2, you're coming up from right here on the bottom, and you're coming all the way up to 7 on the top, right up here, and you're going to plot that point. Week 3 is 9, so you're coming up from week 3 and over from 9 to plot that point. Week 4 would be down here on the bottom, all the way up to 10, and that goes right here. And then week 5 is right here, goes up to 11, and that goes right here. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to connect the line to those points and make a smooth flowing line to connect those points, and that would be your line graph. Sometimes we use a scatter plot graph we create this graph to see if one variable is related to another. Each point on the scatter plot graph has 2 values. Here's an example on the bottom of a scatter plot graph of beach visitors, and we're trying to see if there's a relationship between, as we see on the bottom here, the average daily temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and the number of visitors going up the vertical. So the average temperature, each one of the lines looks like represents 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So it goes from 80 to 82 to 84, all the way up to 96, and this last line would be 98 degrees Fahrenheit. And these are the number of visitors. Each one of these lines looks like represents 75 visitors. It goes from 75 up to 600. And the relationship is at 82 degrees Fahrenheit, there are slightly more than 75 guests at the beach. When the temperature goes up to 84, you get 225. When the temperature goes up here, when the temperature was up to 86, there was 300. Here you have one point that when the temperature was 87, there was only slightly less than 150. So there's an outlier right here. That's a point that doesn't seem to fit the general trend. But if you look at it, generally speaking, there is a relationship. As the temperature goes up, which is going from left to right, this is your temperature going up, there are more visitors visiting the beach. So that's why you've got a general trend here going like that. And that's a scatter plot graph. Very useful. And here's the one that we can do ourselves again, and as another example. Make a scatter plot graph. I have titled this scatter plot graph as the relationship of assignment completion to test percentage. This is a good one. You guys will really appreciate this one, especially here at the beginning of the year. Is there a relationship between the number of assignments that you complete and your test percentage? In other words, if you complete more assignments, do you get a better test percentage? Do you do better on your tests? So here you've got some data. Okay, so we've got 5 students, A, B, C, and D. We have the number of assignments they finished here, and then we have the test percentages. What kind of a score did they get on the test? So we put the number of assignments completed here on the bottom as our independent variable, and then their test percentage going up the side. So here in the middle, we have the number of assignments completed or finished, and we've got anywhere from the lowest number is 1 assignment completed, and the highest number is 10. So we need to have at least place for 10. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 lines, so we're going to divide 10 by 5. So each line is going to represent 2 assignments completed. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then our test percentage scores, our lowest percent is 10 and our highest percent is 100. So we have to have at least room for 90%. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it looks like each line is going to represent 10%. And again, I'm not going to write 10% for each line. I'm just going to put 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100%. And I just know myself that if I write if I write 10% for each line, it's going to really get messy and it's going to look bad. Some of you can write really neat and really small. That's great. You can write 10% for each line. Just kind of hard to do that with a stylus especially. Okay, let's plot the points. Student A finished 3 assignments and got 20% on a test. So here's three assignments, 20%, plot that point. Student B completed 5 assignments and got 60%. 5 assignments, 60%, plot that point. Student C completed 10 assignments and got 100%. Guys, there's your example for you right there, right? You want to complete all your assignments, all 10 assignments, and get a great score of 100%. Student D completed 8 assignments. That's pretty good. And got a 90%. That's great. And the last one, student E must have slept in a lot of days and only completed 1 assignment and got a 10% on the test. Yikes. Gonna have to switch up the schedule a little bit, go to bed a little earlier, get up a little earlier, get those assignments completed. Here's the relationship clearly, okay? As the person completes more assignments, okay, going from left to right, more assignments, you get a higher test score going from top to the bottom, so that these are the ones right here, the relationship that you see as you complete less assignments. Here, way on the left-hand side, if you complete less assignments, 1 assignment or 3 assignment, the test scores are way down low, okay? So that's the value of a scatter graph or a plot graph like that. So hope that helps you out. If you have questions, make sure you contact your chemistry teacher. Guys, you can do this. Hang in there.